Hello. Welcome to Innovation Leadership for Building Community. I am going to go ahead and invite Amine on up. Just a moment. So glad. So, welcome. And my name is Jordan Devecha. I'm a tech founder, venture advisor, multi-passionate creator with a platform, Everyday Innovation, made to connect creator entrepreneurs that value high signal venture and self-development, resources, connections, strategy mixed in with a little fun. I have Amine joining us today. He's just taking just a moment to log in. And while I let him in, just to give you a little bit more background on myself, I came from music marketing, went into the beauty industry, then went into tech in health and wellness, into sustainability. I've been in a lot of different industries. So I love talking about innovation because innovation is all about looking at these different spheres and finding the connection points and seeing how we can do better. I also offer one-to-one advisory for companies and for individuals who are starting new ventures. And then also I just have a community called Everyday Innovation, as well as a newsletter. So if you go to everydayinnovation.io, you can subscribe to the newsletter, join the community, all the good things. So while we're waiting for Amine, I just want to kind of give a little bit of context on what this is about. We actually went live on Monday, and this was on Twitter, and we had a whole discussion on building community and the process of venture design. So I've been working for a little while on pulling together all of these types of models that work well as you build out your new venture. So not just for corporations, but also for individuals as well. So I love helping companies and individuals build new ventures, new projects, even just new creative processes. So we were talking all about the venture design process and how that helps with growing your community. So today is really going to be more about innovation leadership. So that is the skill sets needed to become a better entrepreneur, a better leader in your community, whether that's a social community, a business community, a brand community. You can take those skills and pull them into your particular community and become a leader by example, lead by example. So I think Amine is here. Let me go ahead and invite him up. Amine, let me know if you're all good. Oh, cool. Okay, there you are. Hey.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be late.
No worries at all. No worries. I was actually giving a nice little intro. So that's perfect. So basically I'm sharing a little bit of my background, a little bit of what we talked about in the Twitter space on Monday, and then I'm sharing a little bit about today and how you can take a lot of this innovation leadership, these skills, and then bring this into your community and lead by example. So with that being said, I want you to introduce yourself and your community so we can get to know you a little bit better on video.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Good to see you all. So my name's Amine. I am from Algeria, and I am the founder of the brand Orchestrate community, a community where we help the goal is to fit every misfit and to create a world where every voice is heard. It's been around for almost a year now, and I am super happy that yesterday we just went through the threshold of making $1,000 just by membership pricing. So that's how we're going. As for me specifically, I am a branding person. So I am a brand strategist by craft, but I also like to design here and there. And yeah, nice to meet you all. Good to see you. And I hope this conversation gives you some more insights around my process on running community and Jordan process on running innovation labs and stuff like that. So
yeah, totally. So you're kind of getting a little bit of a sneak peek of how we both work. So what I'm going to do, is I'm going to go through and I have about 7 points, and I'll just share a little bit about what those mean. And then I'll have you kind of talk about how you've personally implemented that in growing your community, if that works for you.
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay. So really, I think if some of you have watched a video that I've released recently, there was one about innovation and resilience. And right now, more than anything, you need to have an innovative mindset to deal with downturns in the economy, everything that's kind of going on in the world, and just all of both the opportunities and the challenges that come up, as especially if you're leading a community and building a community, you want to bring that into your space. So the first point, it's kind of a dual point, is that you want to continuously embrace the opportunity mode of thinking, as well as think ahead of the curve. So when we think of kind of the venture design process, or looking to solve a problem, looking to connect the community, you want to look at the context. What is the context of what's happening in the world? What is the environment like right now? What are we dealing with? Even if you're getting closer to the problem itself, what is my company dealing with? What is my brand dealing with? What am I personally dealing with? So understanding that not only you want to look ahead and start to understand trends, seeing where things are going, get curious about that. You also want to be open to the possibilities that are out there, because sometimes it can be really scary when change happens. I think we all have dealt with, new things that are coming up, whether it is a potential downturn in the economy, but at the same time, there's Web3. I mean, there's all these things that are happening, but looking at them all as opportunities to innovate will make you a better leader and will excite and invigorate people around you to support you in that process. So I just wanted to dig into your brain. So I think we talked a little bit about this in the Twitter space, but I wanted to kind of ask you about what was kind of the context when you started your community, and what do you see going forward into the future, so that you're staying kind of ahead of that curve and serving your people. So kind of what was the context at the time, and what do you see the context kind of evolving into the future for Brand Orchestrate and your general community?
Mhm. Awesome. Great question. So we started like last year, literally in this month, a week from now. So we started in my birthday. So it was like 2 days in one, 2 celebrations in one. But yeah, so I was doing a lot of freelance branding work at the time. And me as a community person, and if you're a community builder or a community person, you would understand this. Most community people, they like to help other people. They like to support them, and they are genuinely like people pleasers in the good way. So that's how we are wired. So technically, I was like, okay, I'm doing a lot of freelance work. So I need to share this with someone. I need to teach someone my work and how I'm doing my thought process, how I'm gaining clients, stuff like that. So that built up, and it built up my own curiosity. And I started like going out there, looking for connections, trying to engage with conversations, see how other people are doing it and see if I can help them in a way. And I started doing some series of interviews to grow my own personal brand, but also to learn from the experts in the space and the people, the audience who were listening to those conversations. Eventually they become more like a fan, and they started to ask more about when is the next session, what's the topic, where can we learn more about this. So I started to shape in a way a beta version of a community. So that's exactly what happened. Those people turned into a beta focus group, and we call it a community. Then we started like working on what the pillars of the community. So where are we going with this? What's the vision? What's the mission? What's the core value? And what kind of activities are we going to run? We started answering some of those. So back then we were doing all things branding. So we were trying to do Zoom events around how to become a better brand designer, a better brand strategist. And yeah, that was like how we started. We started really into the niche of branding. But fast forward 3 months, 6 months later, I started to realize that that's not really something new. And there is already out there a lot of communities in the branding space. And to be honest, I was just doing that selfishly. I was just running the community because I wanted to run the community. I was trying to make it around branding because that's what I was doing, not necessarily what the people needed, and not necessarily what I like the experience that I had with the skills that I acquired during the time. So what happened is 6 months later, I figured out that I no longer just want to teach around branding. And branding of itself is a very deep topic. We can talk about that later if you want, but I started finding new places and new pieces of information and new source of value for myself as a human being, as a person, that I can excel in so many other things rather than just client work, rather than just branding work. And those core fundamental things were the ones that shaped me and made me arrive and achieve some sort of success. So those were the things that people need to have in order to achieve the goals that they wanted. So 6 months later, we changed the vision, we changed the mission to be more around those skills specifically. And to be precise, we changed the community to be around like empathy, leadership, soft skills, personal development, mindset, and how to overcome limiting beliefs, and how to become a leader in a way. So that was, and my cat is trying to get some of my attention right now. Here we go. Yeah, he will eventually show in camera. Anyways, so
your cat is welcome here. If my dog, if I could put him on my lap, then I would put him on this as well.
yeah, my cat like reacts on my sound. So like when I speak, he starts moving. Don't know why.
He's just giving his 2 cents as well.
Yeah, here we go. Come here. All right, let me see if I can grab him without making anything fall. And say hi. Here we go.
Perfect. Right around spooky season, we have a black kitty cat. It's so cute.
Yeah. He's really behaving like a human being. Like the more he grows, the more he comes. But it's weird. I don't know. Like when I call him, he's literally like becoming a dog. So when I call him, he comes. When I tell him to go away, he go away. It's weird. I have to make a documentary out. But back to the conversation. So yeah. So 6 months later, again, I was trying to make the community around the skill that made me achieve the success that I made. So again, soft skills, personal development, mindset, leadership, and all of that stuff. And in a way, since I was doing brand strategy, the core fundamentals of a strategist is to be a good communicator, is to be a good person who handles feedback, is a person who knows how to do research. All of those are not hard skills. They are more in the soft skill side, but those make them a good, like they add up to the ladder of skill set in a strategist role. So anyways, we made the community around that. We started to niche them. We started to be different in that space. And that's where we are right now. Right now, we're like we're good with the fundamentals, with the strategy itself. And we're like, okay, now what can we offer as a core product? And we're building a cohort specifically for the community members where they can learn those skills in a very group-focused learning environment. And yeah, we're having our anniversary like next week for the community, and we're going to announce all about that. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, it was an amazing answer. So kind of just going back to the first point of just kind of looking ahead. So let's say you don't have the community yet, you don't have the reflection piece yet, kind of those action steps that you can take just for people maybe just starting out, or exercise that imagination muscle, look ahead, think ahead, and try to build that empathy with your potential community member. And we'll talk about that next. And then beef up that diet of all the good things that you're reading about. So as you're reading about branding and brand strategy, you're learning in that space, you're learning from other people that you're collaborating with. I'm sure a lot of that, not just the feedback from your community, but you are also learning about, wow, okay, there's not really a lot of people talking about these soft skills. And this is something that's so important in branding. So that kind of led you, from what I'm seeing, to another really amazing point, which is to have empathy for your end customer, your end community member in this case, your end person, whether it's a peer in your community, it's somebody who is starting to learn, and you're sharing that process with them. No matter what, having empathy for these different people in your community is going to have such a huge impact on the way that you think and you frame a problem. So tell us a little bit about how you kind of develop that empathy, or how do you continue to open up that conversation with your community members?
Thank you for bringing that up. And also for everybody who's watching, like if you have a community question or an innovation process question, put it in the chat. We would love to tackle those later in the live.
At the end, once we get through all this stuff too, we can also invite you up to chat as well. If you want to your community, go for it. As long as you have the time at the end. So, but yeah,
thank you.
Anything, and I'll be monitoring.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. So how did I bring up those kind of conversations? Honestly, I would say it was easy. I would say I found an easy way, but there isn't really an easy way. It's really, you have to put yourself out there. You have to take the risk of trying something new in a way, and conversations will happen. So I barely started the community just because that was something that my purpose was driving me to. My following was asking me to do something, but I have never done this before. It's not like I already know all the problems and all the answers and how to deal with them. I literally was learning as I'm going, and people might say that's your scam, or you're not like super, what's the word? You're not really experienced or something like that. When you do something for people are more advanced than you in their career. So technically my community members, I was learning from them more than they were learning from me, which is crazy. So some people might say that it's not possible. How can you get people are more knowledgeable than you in your space? And that's definitely possible if you can articulate your value very clearly. You can articulate where you're going and what you want to build. Eventually, you will have a group of people who will support you, because in each person, there is their own journey and goal. And maybe those people who are advancing their level, they just want to support smaller creators. They just want to support people just like you in their communities to grow. They want to see you grow because it fulfills their creative fuel in a way. So that's what happened. Like 80% of my community members, they had like 10 years more experience than me. They already know how the branding industry works. And like most of them were actually helping me like create like events and workshops, and they were the one hosting it for absolutely free of charge, which is crazy. And like the secret to that, and it's not really a secret, is how much are you dedicated to the thing, and how much do you really care about other people? How much do you really care about your members? Because I've seen some people who start communities because they have a product to sell or because they have something to promote. It's not really because they care about creating a space to help other people in their journey. So I started literally from the reverse. I had no product. I had nothing planned. I just had a group of people who needed that support. And I was like, I'm going to give you all my time and attention, and I'm going to check on each single one of you. And that's what I did. And it's hard work, because putting attention to so many people might make you go like crazy. So if you can see my calendar like 3 months or 4 months ago, almost every day I have like 5 or 4 meetings with a community member just to check up on them, to have them solve a problem, to see if I can link them with someone else. And that's why people stay, because you make them feel important. And I was watching this video this morning from Alex Hormozy. He's such a successful millionaire. You guys check his YouTube channel, Alex Hormozy, that's his name. But he was saying something around, if you like, he was so insecure that people might leave him for his competitors, that he was given value day to day. Like he was like, every day is like a new day. Like you never give value beforehand. So like today I have to give way more value because yesterday was yesterday. Like it was the past. I didn't give value yesterday. I have to restart. So that's how crazy he was dedicated to his work. And that's how I can see communities thrive, because if you can put in the reps day to day, week to week, month to month, and you keep on checking in on your members, you create some sort of accountability for them. You create some sort of guidance and some way of like following their progress and showing them the right way to go through, like guiding them somewhere. They will probably stick along. They will probably stay. They will probably promote your community. They will probably pay for your services. And eventually they will become true fans. And there's this written book about true fans by Kevin Kelly. And the idea there is that true fans will buy the book that you make, both the cover, the audio book. They will also buy the course multiple times. They will also tell people about you. They will come up to the meetings, even if it's like over time or in like crazy time zone where it's 4 a.m. in their morning, they will show up. And if you show up for them, they will show up for you. I hosted a workshop with an Australian. His name is Oppor Lord, such a great guy. And we hosted the workshop around his morning, I believe. And that was like 4 a.m. like this. I had to wake up at 4 a.m. to host a workshop. And we even did something even crazier, because the first day where we hosted the workshop, we missed the communication of the date. So we told people that it was another day, and we wake up and we try to host it the day before. So one person showed up for the first workshop and we did it. I did it at 4 a.m. and I had to do it again the next day for the rest of the people. That's how dedicated I was for my members. And eventually it will pay off and people will reward you for your efforts. And yeah. I don't know if that I literally went out of your question, but hopefully that did.
No, but that's great. But this is how I operate. I love being able to go and touch on a lot of these different topics because it all is really related, right? And you're showing empathy the way that you were speaking about it. You were talking about it in so many different types of ways, and the way that you show up for the community, the way that you even structured the community. You brought up such a great point about there's so many that are just designed around a product or just designed around a person. And really, a community is a collaborative space. It's a collaborative effort, but there is typically somebody who is leading. I know I love that you use brand orchestrate and you're like an orchestrator, you're a conductor, right? I love that because I feel the same way about myself. I tend to be more of somebody who loves to connect others. I love to facilitate conversations, facilitate innovation and creativity within a community, as opposed to, or facilitate helpful conversations, resources, as opposed to, look at me, I'm the expert. Because there's a lot of people out there that maybe don't have that experience, or they're young. Right, that you did a post on that, like, it's not necessarily about, it's if you're really, really great, it doesn't matter how old you are and how much experience you have. It's that kind of of understanding what you really, really want. And if you can communicate that, that's how you get people. And, one of the other big pieces and points of innovation leadership is being adept at building the buy-in to it. So if you can communicate really well and communicate your values really, really well, you have such a better shot of pulling in people from all skill sets, all skill levels, all different types of backgrounds, if you can find those connection pieces. So, I feel like right now, everything is about going viral, going big. And the truth is sometimes having that intimacy and having that really direct communication with people to share those core values is so important, and being able to lead the community into those spaces, as opposed to just being a one-hit wonder. You see a lot of communities will grow really quickly and then just they're dead. Or there's a product that's dead. Nobody's using it. Continuously taking on that space and continuing to grow within it. So as far as building buy-in, how were you doing that, especially in the beginning where you felt like, okay, I need to pitch to some people to come in to do these workshops? How were you getting that buy-in to just become a part of your community and then maybe eventually to monetize?
I just want to shout out to Brand Mother and Abir. I see you there. Good to see you, everybody. If you have any question in the chat, put it there. If you just want to say hi and stick around, I'm very happy to see you. But yeah, buy in. So I actually, funny enough, I had a conversation with another community member who's building a community for his own business. And he told me that you're so crazy because you don't have the craziest audiences, but you still figure out a way to gain speakers who are authors, who have made millions of dollars, who have the audience. He told me that they can literally create a course on this. I'm like, I'm not so sure if I even know how I did it. I just do it. But yeah, like if I had to tell you how I did it personally, it's like putting a lot of reps. You learn how to reach out to people by reaching out to people. It's not like you cannot read a book about like you can read a book about communication, but the only way to be effective at communicating is by actually putting yourself out there and finding what are the things that you lean into the most, and what are the things that people cut their eyes on you and tell you that you're good at this, or this is something interesting about you that you can hook a point of conversation in. But again, there's one core value, which is you have to be curious about other people. You have to be interested in other people in order to be interesting to them. So I wasn't like, hey, dude, join my community. We need a guest speaker. You will never get a yes to that. But if you go and say, hey, sir or lady or whatever, and you say, I really like your work. I really like your book. I'm enjoying about what you're building. Would you be open for a conversation where you can learn more about this? I want to learn more about you. I am curious about your work. Like, tell me more. Is there a way to have a conversation around this? If you just make it about the other person, it's highly likely for them to say yes. Even if you don't have the audience, even if you don't have the money to pay for the guest speakers or whatever. And that's like literally how I did it. And I did a lot of reach outs. The second one is this, like reps. Put a lot of reps. Like if you're just going to reach out to one person and you have like a 50-50 chance of they say yes or they say no, if they say no, it's horrible because you just have one person. But if you reach out to 100 people and then it's like 80% of them, they're going to say yes and they're going to say no. 20% of them, they're going to say yes. 20% of 100 people is 20 people who have said yes to you. 20 people, you can schedule that through the whole year. So I learned to do that. I learned to reach out to individuals one by one by one. I really did the work. Like I have a history in my calendar where I have like 200 one-on-one calls, which is 200 hours, which is crazy. But yeah, like when you reach out to people, like here's the thing. Let's just say you're getting into a niche or an industry and you want to pick the toppest of the brains of that industry. What you want to do is you want to engage in conversations within where that person is engaging in conversations. So if there is a community or there is a LinkedIn post or a keyword or a hashtag or whatever, where that person engages in and his community members or his following engages in, try to add the value there and try to connect with the people who follow him. And eventually by the ladder, if a lot of people in his audience, they're going to know you and they're going to have a positive feedback on knowing you, he will most likely to see you around and eventually give you the chance to talk to you and to give you that guest speaking experience. I even had, like a lot of people say that it should be value in exchange of value, where you give that person value and then they will give you value in exchange. But sometimes it's not the case. And I had this actually, I asked someone, so he's such a big influencer in the creative design space. He's an author. He has a crazy YouTube channel. He's really known. And I tried to reach out to him like 2 or 3 times and I asked him to do something with my community myself. And he said, sometimes he said no, sometimes he was very busy. And the last time it was just smooth. And he said yes without even asking any questions. I was like, why? Like, why are you doing this? I went to him and I asked him why. And I told him, did I give you enough value? Was there a value exchange? Did I do something? He said, no, I'm not doing this because I want your value. I'm doing this because I want to build a relationship with you. That's it. Like, if you actually care about building a relationship with someone who might be potentially successful in their career later on, they will like credit you for it. They will attach your success to them in a way. And that's all that you need to do. Like some people just do it for the sake of having a good conversation, for the sake of building a relationship. So not everybody like value in exchange of that. So yeah, that's how I did it. So
I mean that's amazing. And it's really is kind of going, I love that you're saying it's just one by one by one. That's really all it is. Even if you have 2,000 people on a live, 200,000 people on a live, it all is you're speaking to one person 200,000 times. That's how you build those relationships. And the more that you do that, the more of a genuine connection that you're going to have with your people. So another point that is so important, and you brought it up in this, and this is just helping me because I'm going between all the stuff because you're just bringing them up for me, is build your own community support. Join the communities that you want to be a part of and learn from. Because I know that personally, the more that I started doing that myself, I started to learn more about what tools communities were using, how they were keeping their members accountable.
yeah.
Not just the technical things, but I got to meet new people that I want to collaborate with and that may be a good fit for my community. I typically don't go in to go pitch my stuff regardless, but the point is that I just naturally started making relationships with other people because I was getting out of my own sphere. And I tend to love to join diverse types of community just because I tend to be on the Venn diagram of a few different things. So I love being able to be in different communities, have my foot in different spots, and then start to connect people in that sort of a way. So build community support, whether it's just peers to have coffee chats with. I'm in one, I'm just going to shout them out. I'm in, so if there's a newsletter called Trends VC, they do a lot of, you can find them on Twitter especially. But they do a lot of work on looking ahead at the future and looking at new trends, looking at new markets for entrepreneurs or for people who are investing. So I joined their pro community. They do stand-ups in there. They do masterminds. And so I now lead a mastermind in there. But I started out as just a community member that was giving my stand-ups and just wanting to connect with people.
There you go.
So it's it's really cool because now learning a little bit from that space, I can learn from some of my other maybe spaces in the creative area and start to bridge people together to work with one another. So having your own community support not only supports your personal process, because now you're meeting a whole lot of new people, you're getting new ideas and you're getting new ways of learning from other community builders on how they're doing their thing. So what kind of communities are you a part of, or how are you kind of navigating your own community, building your own network while building your own personal community, Brand Orchestrate?
Yeah, I am part of so many communities, to be honest. This time I cannot seem to count them. So I am in a community for community builders. It's very metal. I'm sorry about the lighting. Let me try something.
I'm also part of, by the way, I'm a big Circle fan. I'm sure some of you will be hearing more from me.
Circle, here you go.
Yeah, Circle. They have a community for their community platform, and they have their own community as well, and they do a really great job of nurturing that space. But yes, so I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, so Circle here. Okay. Quote unquote. I literally talked to their head of partnerships yesterday, and my community we might gonna do something together with Circle. Maybe an event, maybe something like, here you go. Yeah, no, Circle people are amazing. I really love the vibe. So I'm part of Circle as well. Burb. So Burb is a community for community builder. They have a product based on that. Amazing people. I love Burb. From the creative side, I'm part of a community called Creasphere. So Creasphere is run by Richard Solis. He's really into like creating strategy frameworks and strategy sprints and workshops, stuff like that, really for strategists. So that's one. I am around the conversations under the Future Pro community, but I'm not part of it. But that's really dominating the creative space as well. What other communities I'm part of? I'm part of a new community that is hosted literally by my community member. It's called ALTB. So ALTB, it's really new and really recent, but it's for minority businesses in the US. So who's interested with that specifically, reach out to me later. I will link you with the founder. It's around like creating business models, profit first, how to like stuff really into the business model kind of. So yeah, these are some of the communities that I'm part of, from the creative side, from the community building side, and finally from a learning observation side. I'm part of L&D Shakers on LinkedIn and on Slack. It's a community for learning and development. So people are in learning and development, research, stuff like that. That's a cool community run by Anna Maria. And she also works at Butter. So there's a good community called Butter.
I'm in the Butter community.
There you go. Facilitator, yeah, workshoppers and facilitators. Butter is the best, and it's the go-to for that. So yeah, here are some of the communities that I'm part of.
That's awesome.
And hey Nancy, hey Khadija, hey Elizabeth, I see you there.
And I saw Katie too. Hi Katie. Katie was on my my podcast too, and she has coaching. So she does Inner Glow Circle coaching workshops and certification. So love to see all of you. You all have communities. I know that. But yeah, so we were just talking about building your own community support. We all do that. We love, like, if you're a community builder, you need to be part of other communities and be active in them, because you get to learn so much from other people. That's where you get to connect. That's where you can see maybe there's some hidden needs. So if you're in a niche space, but you're seeing that there's somebody, okay, well, I have, like, for me personally, I'm thinking about, I'm in a lot of creative spaces and with a lot of people who are in that area, but then I'm also in a lot of indie hacker spaces. So very techy, very people who have been software developers or no code building their businesses. And I'm seeing this overlap of the creator being a creative and then also a entrepreneur, tech savvy type of person, and having that overlap there in this everyday innovation space, being able to help one another kind of push each other along that spectrum of the creative through the actual implementation and analytics side of it. So, that's where I was seeing a really cool Venn diagram of possibility, just because tech has been such a huge such a huge builder for creatives, because now that tech is kind of caught up with these amazing ideas, now there's so much more accessibility for people who are creatives to just execute and put it out onto the canvas of the interweb.
Yeah.
But let's see what else we got here. Um, another piece that I wanted to bring up was that you're continuously fortifying your idea factory. So that's something that you can do within your communities. You can do it with reading. It could be, my favorite is to go cross industry or in something that's so totally unrelated to what I'm doing to get ideas from
Yeah.
it. So I'm curious, how do you kind of fortify that knowledge bank of ideas, or what kind of things do you like to observe that maybe are outside of just the branding and design and community building? Like, what do you like that's outside of all of that that you get inspired by?
Oh man, here we go. I get inspired by these. So there is a bike. I like biking and hiking. If you can notice, so I like nature. I get inspired by nature. So a lot of sports. So I'm a sports person, nature, swimming as well. Um, those are some of the things that I get inspired by. But I do like things around culture exchange specifically. So I was actually part of a culture exchange program 4 or 5 years ago. But I do like that vibe because what the culture exchange community specifically do well is they know how to handle people. They know how to influence people. They know how to make people act in some way, share common belief, and behave in a specific environment, in a specific kind of adjustment and setting. And that's something that I want to implement within my own community because it's hard to make people behave in a certain way. It's hard to teach them. It's hard to make them follow the rules, especially when my community is really like for misfits and rebels. Like everybody has its own way of doing things. It's kind of crazy to manage that. But yeah, that's definitely one thing that I like to learn more about. I also like read books, listen to audiobooks, watch things around motivation, Gary Vee, Jay Shetty, Simon Sinek, those kinds of people. But maybe finally where I get really ideas is I just realize I circle back to my community members. I just talk to them, ask them some questions, and by the way they answer, by the feedback that they give me, usually that's enough of me to do something with it. Also on LinkedIn and Twitter, on social media. So I sometimes just post some ideas out there and see how the audiences like respond to it. I get engaged with other conversation and see other tweets and see what other people are doing. And I try to bring and match ideas together. I really believe in like hitting 10 birds with one stone rather than setting 10 stones to hit one bird. So if it, like I am obsessed about how can I make all my efforts to one channel? How can I make it an effort of one? So what are the things that are related to what I'm doing? What are the things that are not? And like you get to learn more about this if you observe yourself more and learn more about yourself as a person. So
Right.
what are your core strengths? How is your personality? What do you react to? How do you act? Because people say something, but then act differently. So you really want to observe more about how people act rather than what people say. Because people don't always do what they say. So yeah, I try to observe myself and learn more about myself. I read a lot about psychology and mindsets and figure out like if I can understand myself enough because I am my worst my worst client. So I can deal with crazy community members. I can deal with the biggest influential guest speakers out there, but sometimes I just can't deal with myself. So if I can just start with that, if I can start to appreciate myself more, if I can start rewarding myself more, I can show up better to my community. I can create better ideas. I can create better ways of doing things just because I improve on myself. So sometimes if things are not working, if you're trying to get leads and you're not finding leads, if you're trying to create a program for your community and people are not signing up, maybe the problem is just that oh my God, I'm losing English. You haven't worked on yourself
Yeah.
well. So maybe you should start with that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, kind of when you're building up those ideas, being able to engage with other people, but then better engage with yourself, you'll have a better idea of how you can approach the world if you better understand yourself. And that leads me kind of to another piece, which is understanding your process and your relationship with it. So that's my kind of big core space. Is what I love is I do things that venture design and personal development. So the quote unquote everyday innovation is not about just the things that you do. It is also about how you plan, you live, and then you reflect. So learning from your experiences. So it doesn't matter what context it's in, whether it's business, whether it is in a relationship, whether it is making decisions for your family, whatever that might be. It's understanding how you approach the world and what you do with that information when you get the response back, right? That's basically what impact is. Impact is really kind of just the response back to whatever you're doing. So it doesn't matter what it is. It could be, volunteering here, or it's putting out a new piece of art, or it's launching a new business. No matter what it is, we are all creators in that sense, and we all create impact. And so understanding your process makes it a whole lot easier to kind of shift between spaces, and to come up with new ideas or to understand how you see the world. So as far as understanding, your process, back to self-development challenge. And that's something that I think all entrepreneurs learn once they get into it, is that it is a self-development workshop all the time. So if you're not doing it, it's not going to be so fun for you. I think people have asked before, they're like, do you believe that everyone can be an entrepreneur? And I was like, absolutely everyone can be. It's whether they actually want to be once they start doing it, because it is really like holding a mirror up to everything that you're doing. So the more that you can you can't control the circumstances, but you can control kind of how you're approaching it. So you learned about your own process. What is something that I'll give you an example. Like for myself, what I started to notice was sometimes I have a lot of ideas, right? So sometimes I just need to put them into a space and then start to allow myself to look for opportunities where this is coming into my sphere, or I'm meeting people who are looking for this, or I am seeing something that I'm reading that starts to come up about it. I tend to put those ideas there. Otherwise, if I was executing on every idea, I would be a crazy person. But that's something that's, firstly part of my process. I tend to have a lot of those aha moments when I get into a conversation, or it'll just be a random thing that I'll talk to somebody at a party. The thing will come up that I was thinking about. We'll have a conversation about it, and it spurs inspiration somewhere else. So that's just one little piece of my own kind of, I would say, in my ideation and early creation phase that I do. But what's an example for you where it's something about the way you approach something that's unique to you, but that's something that you apply to pretty much most things that you do?
Yeah. Oh my God. There is so much to speak about this specifically. I am I don't know if this is a symptom or it's called ADHD. I'm not so sure. Yeah. I'm not like, I don't see this as a mental illness. I think this is like very human, and you just have to like work with it. So I am just like that. Whenever I'm reading something that is valuable, I get so fascinated about the thing. And I'm like, I'm making so much notes and I'm creating like so much ideas, and then I'm overwhelmed. Like, what should I do? There's so much to do. Like, I literally create a massive to-do list. So I was like, this is not helping, because I can literally just stay in 1 week of a period of time, just looking at my notes and my content that I created, and I start just organizing them in folders and stuff, just so that I can remove them from my attention, from my memory. So like one thing that I'm leaning to and I'm starting to learn about myself is that I need to focus more. So I need to put myself in the exact setting, in the best place possible, in the right mindset, the right tools, the right internet, lighting, whatever, so that I can focus on one thing. If I just start looking at multiple things, like a shiny object syndrome, and I'm all over the place. I do nothing, and it's just a disaster. So what I started doing, I use Notion a lot to orchestrate like my second brain. People call it second brain, whatever. And what I do is, instead of having a crazy massive to-do list that maybe I would execute on later, I just pick the top 5 or the top 3, and I just put them into one blank page. And that's all I look into. And all the rest, I put them in another page for later. I call it work on Tuesdays or work on Saturdays, like work on weekend. And I organize them. And then once I finish those three, I can go back to that archive and I can bring three new more. And I prioritize them. And that's now how I'm working. So whenever something new come in, it directly go into an archive or to a backlog that I don't see until something is done, until I finish what I was focusing on, and it's about time to leave the space for something else to come in. So that is super helpful. That is something one that I'm trying to integrate within my own processes. The challenge here is when there's people who rely on you and your to-do list is no longer just yours. It's around other people. That's really hard because now you are committed. You gave a promise. People rely on you. And in that case, honestly, you just have to work. Long hours, sleepless nights. You just have to hustle. I'm sorry, I don't believe I don't like hustle. My body doesn't support hustle, but sometimes you just have to do it because other people relies on you as you just are you are their leaders. So if you're a lazy leader, how are you expecting them to show up for you? They'll probably miss your meeting. They'll probably be lazy as well. So that's one of my processes. And hey, Pontu, say, oh my God, thank you so much for joining. That's crazy. Oh my God.
And you're so right. And the thing is that's what's really interesting about understanding your process and then having empathy is that when you start to get in these relationships with clients, with community members, you can, take control of that conversation and ask the right questions so that you can understand their process too and see what kind of synergy you can have there. So there can be so many awesome options. Like I know for me, again, I'm also part of the ADHD crew. I need a lot of automation in my life to do certain things just because if it's not automated, it's not gonna happen. Let's be honest.
Yep.
So some of that stuff needs to happen. For me, using the right tech for me is a huge deal. So again, like we were talking about, Notion is an amazing piece of understanding how you manage your knowledge. So if your knowledge bank, your second brain, how you have a process behind that, the systems behind that are really going to determine how you show up in the creative process or in the analysis piece or in the way that you communicate and show up in your community. If you're too busy on the back end doing stuff, how the heck are you going to be able to go in and engage?
It's hard. It's really hard. Like we're speaking about this as if it's like easy. It's really not easy. It's hard.
It's a process, I think that's probably my big why is to work on some things that help people discover that process and architect it a bit so that they can continue to design and evolve within it because there's no way that you can I can't give you a strategy but for that. You have to be the strategy designer. I can maybe give you a general area of what you can work in and reflect upon. And maybe some resources so that you can try some new things out. But truly, you're the strategy designer in your life. You're your life designer, your venture designer. That does not come from, that should not come to, and in my opinion, from anybody else. But you can be empowered with some tools and some resources and some models to work with to see what works with your particular brain and your particular situation. And then kind of the last piece that I wanted to open up was just that your innovation leadership is also about being adept at, they say, assaulting assumptions. So basically just not assuming anything. I think we kind of covered a lot of this and not assuming what your community members are thinking, not assuming what your client may or may not expect of you, having those open conversations, not assuming that just because this thing is being said in the news that it's going to affect your business XYZ way. You may find an opportunity that's there. So what do you do when you're looking kind of at a situation, whether it's professional or personal? What do you do so that you can kind of come to it in a way that you're not maybe giving yourself mind drama before it even happens? How do you approach a lot of these situations or these conversations?
So I am, and hey, Pontus, good to see you. What's up, brother? All things well. So for me, I would say I'm actually the opposite. I try not to assume anything. Just as you said, I'm a fresh, open mind, fresh look. But I'm also, maybe this is both a negative and a positive thing in my personality, is I'm sometimes too direct with people. So sometimes I forget that leadership needs permission from other people, and it needs assertion and direction for yourself to act without permission with yourself. But with other people, you need their permission in a way. And sometimes I just forget about that. I don't know, that's maybe just who I am. And they just ask people to do things without asking them if they want to do things. And since most of creatives are people pleasers, they say yes. And then during this, and this is actually based on a true story, after a period of time, they get burned out and you're not checking up on them. And then suddenly it's all your fault because you told them to do that. So like it needs to have so much clear, transparent communication with your clients or members as much as you can. So whether you're a person who needs to set up automation, make sure that's the first thing that you need to set up, which is check-ins with the members, check-ins on their progress, and also check-ins on how they feel. Like, are you feeling stable? Are you feeling emotionally and financially and physically stable within the community? Is everything all right? Like, do you need a break? Do you need to leave for a short period of time and come back? And just the fact that if you have that conversation with them, that really helps a lot. Some people will leave and that's okay. And some people, they need to leave in order to come back stronger. And that happens within our community. I've seen that. It's really hard to let people go. Some of them never come back, and that's okay. You just have to learn how to feel less emotional about it. But those who come back, they come back so powerful, so energetic. They come back with a purpose. They trust you because you let them do what they wanted. You weren't trying to force their decision. You weren't trying to be too crazy about it. So yeah, that's how I am trying to handle this. But it's really hard because every person is different.
Right.
You just cannot be good with everybody, and not everybody understand you and get your message the same way. So you cannot satisfy everyone. You can try to do your best, but that's about it. So whenever something comes, that's where leadership comes in, is whenever there is a problem, show up to the problem, have a conversation around it, be transparent, be kind, listen to the person. Don't try to hurt their feelings. Don't try to just over-argument them just for the sake of making yourself feel better. Just listen to them. It's going to be a tough 5 minutes, a tough 10 minutes. Just take it easy. After that, go take a run or something. But really, that's all that you need to do in order for them to feel better, in order for them to feel understood, to feel like you actually care about them. And then that's like a restart and recharge to get things going after. So yeah.
It's people just want to be heard, really. I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of a community you have or if you have a product. People just want to initially be heard. And that's sometimes, I think, the piece where we don't want to get feedback. And that's a huge part of the impact process. How do you know what your impact is without getting some sort of a feedback? You can look at all the analytics you want, but until you ask somebody truly to give and to hold space for that honest opinion, you are never going to innovate and progress without that feedback. So what do you think of feedback? Because this is a great way to kind of wrap this up, talking about feedback and reflection. How do you get feedback from your community or from any of your interactions, whether it's a client, however you want to go into it, but we can talk community if that makes sense.
No, there are so many ways to get feedback. I think it's not about how you get feedback, it's about wanting to get feedback. So you kind of have to set the intentionality for it. And you kind of have to remind yourself. Because I personally went into this problem where I sometimes just go for a month without getting any feedback. I don't ask for it. No one gives it to me. And I'm like, okay, we're fine. Everything is fine. And that's really where there's a red flag, because if no one is saying anything and you're not doing anything, there's probably something wrong. So anyway, you just have to set the habit of getting feedback, asking for feedback. That's really the first biggest thing. And then you just do it. You either go create a small survey and you send it over so that it's asynchronous. Like they just fit it on their own time. That's one way to get feedback. Another one is just ask for a Zoom meeting or ask for one-on-one conversation. And one way to actually get them to answer the feedback or get them to say yes to you to do this is make it about them. Don't make it about you. Like the goal is to get feedback, but don't make it to them so that it's about feedback. Make it around, I'm checking up on you to see if you fix this problem or to check on your accountability progress. Like make it something relatable to what they are doing. And then during that session, you ask them the questions that you need from them to gain your feedback, but also to make them feel like you're actually caring and asking about. So that's maybe the best way to gain feedback. Another way could be like during your Zoom meeting, like event or whatever, you could save like the last 5 or 10 minutes of the Zoom and say, hey, before we end the session, I just want to ask you a couple of questions. And this is specific feedback in the event itself. You could say, okay, how was the event? How did you like the speaker? Did you like the content? What do we need to do next? Something like that. But yeah, those are some of the ways to gain feedback.
Yeah. And then being able to take that feedback and then having discernment to look through it and say, first of all, especially if you're somebody who comes from either like people pleasing or you're worried about disappointing others, getting yourself grounded before you're fully receiving and digging into the feedback. Like you said, maybe go take a run, take a little break if you just need to kind of process it a little bit. Because I feel like the biggest sting of anything, if you're getting a little bit of criticism, even though it's so valuable, is just in that moment or those, that first hour after something where you're like, ooh, that was harsh, but it was true. Taking that in and saying, okay, so now that I've gotten this feedback, so there's going to be a mix of probably the things that you're saying with your video and also email open rate. I mean, there's things that are very, you can go very one-on-one, very deep. You can also take things from your engagement on other stuff too. You pull it together and you look at it from the meta perspective and say, okay, let me remove my personal, unless it's something that was very personal to you, then take it to therapy, whatever you need. But you know what I mean? It's like, but it's if your coach.
Yeah.
But if it's something that's just in how things are run, how can I look at this from a strategist perspective and say, here's the data I got. This. Is this something that's maybe personal to that particular member? How can I show up for them? Here's something that can maybe be something that I can put in my system. Here's something that I can put back into the creative process. I'm not ready for that yet. But let's put that in the backlog of something that we can address later and use it in your innovation process, because that's probably one of the that's probably one of the hardest ways, probably for the ego, but probably the most effective ways to innovate is to get the direct feedback from people. So it's really about discernment and looking at it like, wow, this is awesome. Look at this cool data I have, instead of just saying, how is my stuff doing? And it's cricket, because it's probably
this is so hard though. This is so hard. We're somewhere thinking from
that's like the master level. But that's what the creative process is all of it. It's not just the creation and putting it out. It's also having to sit and get that feedback, because that's what puts you back into the loop again with a lot more experience. You can keep creating and putting things out there, whatever, but if you're not actually getting any feedback, you're not actually looking and reflecting upon it. It's not just the feedback, but ask the feedback to yourself. How did that go for you? If that was the worst thing to launch that thing, maybe you want to look into not doing that again or doing it differently. You have to ask yourself. You got to be critical with yourself. I didn't do so hot in this part. I was really active in the creative process, but then communicating it, I did a terrible job. I just threw it up and sign up for this thing, and I actually didn't do much on it. You have to have that. But you also have to give yourself the positive feedback too, because it's not just about what you need to improve. It's about what is going. Innovation is just as much about what's going well for you. So, what's going well for you right now? I know you just cropped this out. That what's going well for you in your community right now? We want to hear it.
That's the one. You just blow it up. I just crossed $1,000 for membership pricing for the community. That's one financial reward, but more of the people reward. I'm actually going to host a virtual summit at the beginning of 2023. So biggest event for me, for the community. Hopefully we can gain a lot of exposure for that. And finally, next week, we actually have our community anniversary. So it's like a full year where we were sustained. And it's my birthday too. There you go. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So congratulations on all that. Where can, let me go ahead and wrap this up. go ahead and let us know where we can find you and what to look out for. This is also going to show up just so you all know. It'll be on my Instagram profile. I'm going to put it also in a couple of other spots too, LinkedIn, and put it on the newsletter. So it'll be everydayinnovation.io, and it'll live there as well. So you can see this later. So if you're seeing it closer to the time of whenever all these things are launching, or you're looking at it at the end of 2020 to 23, let us know what's going on.
Yeah, so for everybody who's listening to this, you can find me at my name, Amine Hammou, or this Instagram profile if you're seeing this on Instagram. As for my community, brandoakshade.com and brandoakshade.com/linktree for all our social links, whatever you want to follow us, newsletter, audio events, virtual events, you can find all of that there. So again, thank you so much, Jordan, for having me. And where can people find more about your community?
Yeah, well, the best place is really honestly to just, if you're on Instagram, follow me here, because I'm going to be the thorough the thorough place for all of those different things. But you can go to everydayinnovation.io. That's really kind of like the content hub, and galaxy.everydayinnovation.io. You can actually go just to the regular sites to get to it as well. But my community is in beta. It's on Circle. And there's going to be a lot going into next year. I'm looking into, I was going to do a cohort this year, but I'm actually going to do it next year. Just now, Circle is going to be launching that. So I'm excited about that. Tuesday, if you guys are watching it prior to, this is next Tuesday in September. I'm going to know so that I'm not just pulling a date out. To be the 27th, they are doing a summit, a Circle Summit for courses. So if you are looking to do any sort of a course, whether it's a cohort or not, I urge you to check that out, because they do really awesome programs. So that's coming up next Tuesday. But yeah, join the community. It's still in beta. It's totally free. You can join, and going into next year, we're going to be offering a whole lot more there. We want some more leadership. I want some more collaboration. So I'm looking into doing some Notion templates, since you mentioned Notion, on a lot of this creator innovation process, and I'm looking for experts to collaborate with on some of those. So if you are in a specific space, whether it's tech, branding, marketing, design, whatever it might be, let me know, and let's do something together. That's what community is about. So I want to build a community, and yeah, I'm excited about it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to share this with everyone. Happy early birthday, and thank you for joining me. And also check out, you'll see it on everydayinnovation.io within the next couple of days. But we also had a space on Twitter, so I'll be sharing all of the pieces. That was a great conversation as well, and that was focused a lot more on the venture design process and some of the tech behind the community. So if you want more from us, that's where you can get it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. See you all in traffic. Bye-bye.